Do you have team members who just refuse to turn their cameras on? Today, I'm going to give you some strategies for how to convince your team to turn their cameras on. My first tip is to learn why. Why don't people want to turn their cameras on? There's actually quite a number of good reasons. The first one being, of course, privacy concerns. If we don't have a virtual background, we are showing people into our homes. And for some people, that feels uncomfortable. So they'd rather just keep their privacy. For some technical limitations, right, bandwidth concerns or old equipment, or we don't have the resources to buy a good camera or the lighting system that we need to look good on camera. The third is self-consciousness. Many people are self-conscious with how they look online. And when we're looking at ourselves, it can be very distracting. Many tools have hide self view. So if you're one of those people, that can definitely be a good option for you. Another reason people don't turn their cameras on is because there are distractions at home. We may have housemates or children or guests or family, right? People that we don't want to have on the call. And perhaps if you are working with sensitive information, you don't want the people in your home overhearing that sensitive information on the call. So definitely distractions. And then last but not least, Zoom fatigue. Those back-to-back meetings are really tiring, and the science shows that they are really tiring. So definitely one of the tips we'll be going into is taking more breaks in between meetings. If we're trying to convince people to turn the cameras on, we've got to give them a good reason why. For this, I'm turning to Karen Reed, who wrote the book Suddenly Remote. Karen is an on-camera communication expert, and she had some great reasons for why it's important to turn the cameras on. I'll let her tell you.
Why is video then so important in an online meeting? Let's go with
Well,
that.
think about how we communicate. So, up to 55% of how we communicate a message is through our body language. And if you have your video off, that body language is silent. So, as a speaker, you want to be able to communicate the intent of your message as clearly as possible. And your body language is going to allow you to do that. If you are a speaker watching people in your audience, you want to ensure that they have their cameras on too, because you want to be able to tell the impact of your message. Because that's one of the things that we miss oftentimes whenever we're communicating through a camera. You know, when you're talking to somebody face to face, you are reading their response to your message. You know, if they're nodding, great. You know, if they're looking confused, then you think, oh, okay, I need to either explain this more clearly, or I need to adjust my delivery accordingly. It's more difficult to do that when you're speaking to a camera. It's almost impossible to do if you're speaking to a camera and you have everybody in their gallery view with just their names and black boxes. So that's why video is so critical in terms of just making sure that people understand what you're saying, and you can read how it's being received.
All right, that was Karen Reed, an on-camera communications expert. You can hear more of that interview in episode number 275. We've talked about learning why people are hesitant to turn their cameras on as the first strategy for convincing them to do it. The second strategy is to set expectations. For example, in my workshops, before the workshop starts, I send out a welcome email with all the basic logistics that attendees need to know. And I let them know that it will not be a webinar and they're expected to be seen and heard. So please be prepared to turn the cameras on. That at least gives people the preparation time that they'll need in order to have the right setup so that they feel comfortable. My third strategy is lead the way. If you want others to turn their cameras on, turn your camera on first. Even if you're the only one with the camera on, you still set the expectation and you're inspiring others in the group to do so. I promise you, the extroverts will join you and you'll be able to bring most of the group along from there. My fourth tip is try a timed cameras on technique. For example, maybe just turn the webcams on for the first 5 minutes or the last 5 minutes of the meeting to say hello or goodbye. That way you still get the personal contact, but the people that don't feel comfortable or just don't want to have their webcams on can have them off for the majority of the call. But it's always nice to say hello and goodbye, and most people will appreciate that. Also, for those who are really hesitant and need time to get used to it, those timed cameras on moments, those are small steps into feeling more comfortable over time. My fifth strategy for convincing people to turn their cameras on is have shorter meetings to begin with and take more breaks. I've got lots of information out there about how to reduce the number of meetings that you need and improve the ones that you're having. Please definitely go check that out. And the second thing that's on top of that is take more breaks. Science shows that our brains do better when we have a 5 to 10 minute break in between every 30-minute meeting. And in fact, when I interviewed NASA almost 10 years ago, they said that they took a 5 to 15-minute break every 45 minutes of virtual meetings because they have these all-day meetings with their scientists. So it's a good rule of thumb to be taking breaks in between meetings. Now, the other reason for taking breaks is because after every meeting, there's usually some small thing that you have to tie up, right? Like a file you have to find, or you're going to tell somebody, you're going to check in with somebody. And so giving yourself that extra 10 to 15 minutes in between meetings gives you the chance to tie up all the loose ends that you need to tie up and take a physical break. My last strategy is similar to shorter meetings and more breaks, but I wanted to introduce you to a quick eyes breaker. This is the technique that I learned from an eye doctor during the pandemic who said that lots of people were coming to them because of tired and dry eyes because we were spending way too much time online. So a great way to encourage others to rest their eyes is by asking people to look off into the distance and then blink their eyes 10 to 15 times. And that one allows you to refocus at a distance, and the blinking will help moisturize the eyes so that they're less dry. All right, those have been some strategies for how to turn your cameras on. We have many more in our brochure that you can download. Go ahead and go to collaborationsuperpowers.com/superkit to download all the information that you need to rock remote work. See you online. If you're interested in learning more or diving deeper, I really encourage you to join one of our live interactive trainings. You can find those in all time zones all over the world. We've got licensed facilitators who are there who professionally train these workshops. You can also join one of our free events. We host virtual co-working often, and we're also hosting the Facilitators Playground, where you can come and learn new techniques for online facilitation. All right, everybody. I'll see you online.